friendos. I'm back with a more in-depth review of The Dark Knight Rises. Now, I gave you my initial impressions. I told you the movie, in my mind, rates an A, that it was a great ending to a trilogy, that all of the actors gave great performances, and they are all given good material from the script. You know, I compared and contrasted some of the films, and I want to go into that a little bit more, specifically talking about The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, because The Dark Knight set such a high bar, and that, you know, there was a level of excitement and hype to this movie, which, by the way, in my opinion, was way overhyped. And I did not like that at all. I don't like it when they hype a movie to that level. It's just, it may get some people into a fever pitch, but for me, it just, it's too much. It starts to dull down my expectations. Or dampen my anticipation. That's what I meant to say. But yeah, the Dark Knight set a bar. And how are you gonna go above that? Well, in my mind, Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan and David Goyer, right? I believe those are the guys responsible for the story and the script. Well, Christopher Nolan and David Goyer write the story, and then his brother Jonathan, I believe, and Christopher Nolan wrote the screenplay. I want to make sure to get the facts straight because we're talking about Batman here, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers. So, yeah, I think the way that he topped, not topped, because let's face it, The Dark Knight is filmmaking at its best. It's a real piece of craftsmanship that students of film should definitely study. On how to make a great superhero movie, how to make a great action movie, you know? I don't know if people have compared it to Heat. You know, I can see what they're going for there. It's a great crime drama as well as an action movie, as well as a comic book movie with great suspense. So on a technical level, The Dark Knight was an enormous success. And as some of you know, I've watched it multiple times. You know, it's one of my most watched Blu-rays, as it is for a lot of you guys. Great film. Was The Dark Knight Rises better? I don't know, but I at this early stage, you know, maybe in 6 months I'll change my mind. Maybe when the Blu-ray comes out, which it'll probably come out before Christmas, I'm sure, to capitalize on that, but maybe my thoughts will change, you know, over the course of time. But initially, I think Dark Knight Rises is the best Batman movie because of the level of emotion. And this is where we're going to start getting into spoiler territory now. So for those of you who didn't get it from the title that this review contains spoilers, I'm telling you now, spoilers are about to commence. So if you still don't want spoilers and you're watching this, then click away. But we're going to start in with the spoilers now. So, in the movie, okay, you know, it starts out and Bruce Wayne is living as a hermit in Wayne Manor. And it's been 8 years since the events of The Dark Knight. And he took the fall for Harvey Dent. And, you know, there's this level of guilt, especially with Commissioner Gordon, played by Gary Oldman, who delivers yet another tremendous performance and is given even more, I think, in this movie. Again, on an emotional level, I'm going to use the word emotion a lot because that's what this movie was going for, and that's why I think it's the best Batman film because, you know, you take Bruce Wayne, he's been out of the game, he's been living as a hermit, and then there's this you know, he meets Catwoman, she comes and steals his mother's pearls, and that's a very cool scene. How he catches her, and there's some back and forth dialogue, and you can tell there's some tension there that may or may not, come out down the road. But anyway, she starts to lure his interest into the outside world, as does the Miranda Tate character, who sits on the board of Wayne Enterprises. Then comes Bane, and that really brings the bat suit out, and he's got to hunt down Bane and take care of this problem. And this is where the movie starts getting really, really bleak, and I think I failed to mention that in my initial review, that there is a darkness, a level of darkness to this movie that it really it makes you feel, there's a weightiness to it. The Dark Knight, it was dark, yeah, but it was also like a roller coaster ride. This movie was fucking about as bleak as you can get for mainstream audiences to put in, 5,000 multiplexes, or on 5,000 screens across the country. I don't know, but it starts when he hunts down Bane, and the initial fight between those two characters is brutal, and it's on a very sort of animalistic level. There's no music playing in that fight scene. It's just bone crunching. It's just, and Bane gives Batman a fucking beat down and nearly breaks his back. Then has him thrown into this dungeon. I don't know where it is. I missed something in the movie, but he's thrown into some sort of dungeon in Turkey or Uzbekistan or someplace like that. And it's the same place that Bane himself came from, and another character that we'll learn about later in the film. So you've got that going on. And it's happened. A lot of things are happening at once, as Nolan often does. He stages a lot of different scenes at one time. So while in that sort of time frame where Batman gets beat down, Bruce Wayne himself gets a beat down because Bane basically zaps all of his money. He goes into a stock exchange and he robs Bruce Wayne of everything except for his, I think Bruce Wayne is left with his house, but he has nothing, So Bruce Wayne, as the billionaire, stripped down, and then Batman is stripped down and thrown into this dungeon, back nearly broken. And he really has to fight back. And, the men in the dungeon, they tell him, the only way to get out, you have to climb up this tunnel. And it's not this tunnel, but this sort of well. It's like Batman Begins. It's like the well in Batman Begins. There's a lot of symbolism there. But only one person has ever escaped, and it was a child. And you're led to believe that is Bane, and a clever bit of storytelling on Nolan's part. And this movie has some very good twists, some big twists to it, and this is where it's going to get into heavy spoiler territory. While Bane was great as a pure evil brute force of nature who had not an ounce of humanity in him, in the end you come to find out he's pretty much a soldier for someone else. He's a pawn. And the big twist is that of course Miranda Tate ends up being the real villain here. That moment that you guys, again, you should click away if you haven't seen it. This is spoiler heavy. When she drives the knife into Batman. That was such a shocking moment. I did not see that coming. On the other hand, I did see the rise of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's John Blake character to become, I guess, the next Batman, and his name ends up being Robin. That was a cute little wink, I think, from Nolan to the fans. Yeah, I could, as soon as his character was introduced and we started to see him, I knew, hey, this is where this is headed. That guy's gonna sort of become the new Batman. And I think that was purposeful. I think that was on purpose. I think he made that abundantly clear to steer your mind towards that being a very big reveal and completely steer it away from this other twist, which is Marion Tate, being the real villain here. And, she ends up being the daughter of Oscar Schindler. That's what I'm going to say, because I can't remember the character's name from the original, from the Batman Begins movie. But yeah, she's Oscar Schindler's daughter, you come to find out. And there's a lot of threads to that character in Batman Begins. And that's yet another reason why this movie ties up the trilogy so well. Yeah, and then there's there's all of the emotional, personal stuff, like Bruce Wayne dealing with, he still hasn't let go of the death of his girlfriend. I can't fucking remember her name. I'm sorry. God damn it. Oh man, I should have. I've made notes here of names, because names I'm terrible with. Dates I'm good with, but names not so much. Anyway, God, that's so offensive, isn't it? But he's still dealing with that pain. He can't let it go. Alfred does not want him to put the suit back on, to put the mask back on, and he wants him to let go and move on with his life and become something more. And fairly early on in the film, Alfred and Bruce Wayne have a complete break. They have a moment, a dramatic moment, where they pretty much break up. The bromance is over, it seems. But no, the Michael Caine, Alfred, has always been the big father figure for Bruce. And if you remember that letter that he hid at the end of The Dark Knight, well, he reveals it to Bruce Wayne, and in a big attempt to jar something loose emotionally with Bruce Wayne. And it's just a really emotional scene. And then you don't see Alfred, for the rest of the movie. And I started to think this is going to suck. I mean, I think, midway through the movie, I thought this is going to be good, but I'm going to be disappointed. But I wasn't. There was a reason why his character was gone for so long, because when he comes back at the end, it's such an emotional gut punch. It's worth it. Now, the only negative things I've read, like I said in my initial review, a lot of critics were saying it's bloated. I haven't read the other negative stuff. I know there are negative reviews out there. But to me, with this initial reaction to it, I think definitely an A. And great screenplay. I can understand the bloated argument that could it have been trimmed down some? Perhaps. But I'm going to tell you, it took me out. Here's what the movie did, and this is how I grade what a great movie is. If it makes you forget your surroundings because you're so sucked into the story, and especially if it gives you some feeling of emotion at the end of the film, or something that pummels you, so that when you walk out of the theater, you have that stunned feeling. And I've had that for a couple of hours after seeing the movie. You know, but especially just walking out of the theater, you know that stunned feeling you have when you see a really, you know, gripping movie. That's the effect it had on me. So, you know, on an emotional level, on a gut level, I rate it very high. Was it as well constructed on a technical level as The Dark Knight? No. I think The Dark Knight was a tighter. It was a tighter film and more tightly edited. But so I can understand where they're coming for with the bloated, but then it leads to so many complexities that I don't even have time to get into in this review. I mean, you're dealing with the reason why I say this is probably the best Batman movie is because it gets at the heart of the man. It really does. It gets right straight to the soul and heart, and it strips away from a lot of characters. For instance, Commissioner Gordon. You know, his secret hiding Harvey Dent's crimes, that's stripped away. So it's like a lot of these characters, they are just stripped bare. And Bane is almost like a rapist, really. It's like, because he just takes from all these characters and just takes all their secrets and just exposes all of these characters and strips them down, and they're just naked and raw, and you know, they have to be built back up and overcome. And I'm going to tell you, the threat to Gotham City itself, which I've read, a lot of people will say, you know, Gotham City is unto itself a character, and I that totally makes sense. Batman and Gotham City, you know, one without the other, that's you know, wouldn't work. So, but this is the greatest threat, and I can imagine them sitting around in this story, chatting about ideas for the story, and thinking, what is the greatest threat to Gotham City? And not only is it this nuclear device going off, but it's how it's, you know, citizens can't leave and people can't come in. It's so bleak. And you know, the meat of the movie, the mid part of the film, you know, you've got this bleak Gotham City that's under the iron rule of Bane, and all the citizens are afraid, and it's like, well, it's kind of like Schindler's List. It's kind of like a, you know, like policemen are hiding, kind of like Jews were hiding from Hitler. It kind of has that feel to it, you know. Here's a city that is under complete control, and you know, is devastated, and whew, it's some heavy stuff, folks. It really is. It's some dark, heavy stuff for a popcorn tentpole summer movie. I'll tell you that. But yeah, Christopher Nolan continues to grow in my estimation as a filmmaker, and you know, while not the tightest film, I don't think it needed to be. I think a lot of third films in a trilogy suffer from what some critics have been saying is bloated. The difference is this film verges on bloated, but it delivers the goods at the end. Like, if you start out with something very broad and wide, and then it focuses everything to a perfect conclusion, and that's what Nolan does with this movie. Now, if he had not, if the ending had been unfocused, and he had not put all the puzzle pieces together, then it would have been a disappointment, and I was afraid of that, but not at all. There were so many great moments. Like, all right, I want to ask you guys, how many of you thought that shot of Michael Caine right at the end, when he goes to that, I think he goes to Italy, to that little cafe, and he sees Bruce Wayne. But what you see is his reaction first, surprise, and then he starts to smile. I thought it was going to cut off at that moment, and that was going to be in the film. I thought it was going to be the totem from Inception. But I'm glad that Christopher Nolan did not repeat himself and went the other way to show you that Bruce Wayne is alive and he's thriving. He's moved past Batman. He's gone through all of this fucking trauma in his life, and he came out the other side smiling and happy as a man. And Batman as a symbol needs to be carried on always by somebody. I do believe Bruce Wayne believes that, and I know Commissioner Gordon believes it, and certainly the citizens of Gotham. Of course, they're always back and forth. Yeah, you know, it was a very life-affirming movie. I'm going to say that. It was more than just a comic book action movie. It was a life-affirming film that shows you that, you know, what Bruce Wayne's father says in Batman Begins, why do we fall? So that we can get back up. Well, Bruce Wayne, Batman falls so many times and he's put through so much trauma, and yet he continues to get up and he heals through all of this and comes out the other side, and it's a very life-affirming thing that I think all of us can connect to, that human beings can connect to, that we're beaten down in life and sometimes we just want to give up. But if you get up and keep going and face your fears, you can eventually come out the other side a better, happier person. So, you know, that's there's a lot of themes interwoven in this film. I've probably just scratched the surface. This movie, it goes very deep. But there you have it, folks. Those are my more in-depth spoiler thoughts on the film. I hope you enjoyed. Comment below. Let me know what you think. And maybe we can... I would love to know what other people, you know, think about this movie. I'll definitely be reading message boards and reviews now that I've seen the movie that I've been avoiding. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Crazy Jason, and you've been in my Wacky Emporium, baby.